Good morning, everybody. Oh wow, I've been up since about 7:30. It is almost 9 on a Saturday morning. It was overcast this morning, but they're saying by 10:30 it should be partly to mostly cloudy. No more showers until Tuesday. Yay! But it's going to be chilly. Temperature overnight dropped drastically. But my area is considered under a flash flood warning or flood warning. Which is typical for this area when we have a good day long deluge of rain. Um, I wanted to address one particular thing on this video. Somebody has mentioned why am I acting like mythology is reality? Well, here's my case. I read all these different books about Norse mythology and how they lived back during from 860 BC to almost 1600 BC, or not BC, AD. Both of them AD. I'm sorry. 868, yeah, 860 AD to almost 1600 AD. Almost 800 years worth of Vikings. Now, Vikings are not a people. It's an occupation. The people are the Norse or Northmen. Yes, there's a lot of stories in here. There's a lot of information in here, and it talks about the mythology of the Norse people. Now, it's stories about various different people and deities, their beliefs. Now, this person wanted to say that it was fantasy, it was not reality, there's no reality based on it. Really? Okay. This book, the Bible, was started several hundred years before Christ's introduction to the world. The whole Old Testament, which is the building block of today's Christian religion. Why is this not considered mythology? It's events and stories about people that we don't know about, that we weren't there. Okay? The whole first part of the book is about their escape from exile, the creation of mankind, the beginning of their religion, the Jewish religion that turned to Christianity, that we use today to live by. Norse mythology, books that I have on the Vikings. Why is this fiction? Why is this fantasy? It's about people and events that we weren't around to witness. We weren't alive yet. Yet this is a little bit newer, or the idea is a little bit newer than the written Bible. Yet these people were around before Christ came around. Yes, their story, or the stories we have about these people, weren't started until 800 years after Christ's death. What's the difference? It's because of the fact that we were able to hold on to and find inscriptions, or the whatever they were scribed on or wrote on back in their day, the papyrus. This is kind of like one of the oldest written history books, yet we consider it reality. But we weren't there to say it was real or not. We just happen to have their written histories. Just because the Norse people did not write everything down, or what they wrote it down on deteriorated because it was wood and stone. They didn't know how to make paper. They used wooden carvings. They used stone carvings. They deteriorate faster than papyrus. And back in the day, because of the Egyptians, the Jewish people, the Israelites, knew how to preserve their paper, their papyrus. What's the difference? Because one is based on God, and the other one is based on a people's belief, a belief in other, not just one God, but multiple gods, deities, however you want to put it. I don't see the difference. I don't. They talk about Thor, Odin, Loki, Freya, Frigga, Heimdall, Tyr, Frigg. Those are the only ones I can remember off the top of my head of their deities. Yet, because this focuses on one deity, but yet he's three in one. What? Triplets? Not trying to make fun. I'm just trying to get you guys to understand the differences. The difference is, let's not even go into, let's pull a different mythology out. Greek mythology. You had Zeus. You had Hades. Those are the only two I can remember out of their religion, out of that group of mythological beliefs. Greek mythology, Roman mythology, it was around before Christ was born. What happened to following that mythology? We know more about Greek and Roman mythology than Norse mythology, because the fact that in that zone, that Mediterranean area, you had contact with people who knew how to make paper and how to preserve it in jars. Norse people didn't know anything about papyrus, didn't know how to make, paper out of wood or any of that stuff. It was all wood carvings and stone carvings and, archaeologists discovering things to ice melts and whatnot. That big old long ship that they have, that was a treasure ship and had the corpse of two Norse women. One of them they think was a princess or queen. The other one was a handmaiden. They're discovering all over England and Iceland and Finland, Norway, Sweden, Denmark, even all the way over here in America. Yeah, all the way over here in America, the remnants or remains of Viking people, boats, villages, the whole nine. Yet, we want to say that everything we have on the Nordic people, because it's labeled Norse mythology, is fantasy with very little reality. I beg to differ. Because every culture has a precursor religion if they're not following it today. Most nations have precursor religions, and we want to call it mythology. Look at all the information we have about the Inca, the Maya, the Aztec, the Toltec. We see their footprints in their pyramids and all over the Central and South American landscape. We're now discovering we're now, as far back as the 60s, discovering remnants, footprints of the Norse people. Yet, we want to call it all mythology. Well, we have very little footprint, like buildings and ruins and whatnot, of the Israelites and the Christians. What? Because the factor back in the day, where things were changing into Christianity, it was all right there in the Mediterranean, and that means all the other cultures and creeds and religions around the world were just considered mythology or paganism. Why? Because we don't want to follow the mainstream beliefs that all happened in the Mediterranean, where, back in that day, that was considered the center of the world. That was like anything beyond the coastline of Africa and Europe. There was no such place. And because of the factor, I don't know, let's see here. Before Christ was born, or right around the same time Christ was born or died, I can't remember exactly, the Roman Empire tried to take control of most of Europe, but the pagan barbarians said hell no and nearly wiped out Rome. That's not in your normal history book, but yeah, certain European history books talk about how 5 European clans that were nearly wiped out by the Romans got together and pushed the Romans back, and were literally beating down the door into Rome. And the Roman emperor of the time was like, I don't want you to destroy my people. How can I get you to go away? We won't bug you, but we want you to go away. And nearly wiped out Rome's treasury, because all 5 clans leaders were, we want your money. We want all your treasures to be split between the 5 of us, and then we'll go away. Yeah. Rome was nearly wiped out by 5 barbarian pagan clans. I don't know. I don't remember the clans, but I'm pretty sure most of them followed some form of Norse mythology or Norse paganism. Yeah. This is back before Norse paganism was Norse paganism. It was their way of life. It was their belief system. It was what they believed in, and that's what kept them going, is the codes and the rules and the learnings from the Norse gods. In fact, one of the books that I have over there, the Havanal, is almost like a Norse Bible, because it's words of wisdom from Odin himself. Just like the commandments in the Bible are the words written on stone by God himself and passed down to humans through Moses. Do you see any similarities there? I sure do. Now, I don't care if you call me a pagan. I don't care if you call me a Christian. I don't care if you call me any of those words, negative or positive, towards either religion. I am human. I am a human being that loves to learn stuff. Guess who else was just like that in Norse paganism? Odin. Now, I'm not claiming any kinship or connection, but that was one of Odin's favorite things to do, is to journey to Midgard, Earth, to live among the human beings, to learn stuff. Now, he could have had his 2 crows, I can't remember their names, go down to Earth and hear everything that the humans have to say, and then fly back to him and give him the knowledge that way. But no, he liked to go down there. He liked to come to Midgard dressed as a man, an elderly gentleman, in gray robes with a gray hat, a staff, and usually one of the crows is sitting on the staff or on his shoulder. That's how he's depicted in Norse mythology. It's one of his depictions, as just an elderly gentleman learning stuff, going to villages, hanging out with people, and hearing what they have to say and learning it, and then giving them bits and pieces of wisdom. Isn't that what God did throughout the Old Testament? He would come down to earth in one way or shape or form and mingle with people, give them words of wisdom once in a while, and go back up to heaven to do whatever he does up there. It kind of sounds familiar. really has a familiar ring to it. You know? Feats that we can't, are mind-boggling, but according to both religions, it happened. Now, I can understand the difficulty of understanding that the lesser gods of Norse mythology, the other deities, and their feats and what their purpose was. I mean, Thor. Thor, according to Norse mythology, was the protector of Asgard and Midgard, or Earth. Isn't that what Jesus did? He came down to Earth. He was sent to Earth to mingle amongst the people and help them learn. And as anybody nowadays would say, knowledge is power. You know? And basically, that's what I'm doing. I'm gaining knowledge to empower myself in one way, shape, or form. You know? I don't think there's anything wrong with the idea of learning about your ancestors or cultures of the world that you feel connected to, even if you don't know your ancestry connection via DNA. I mean, I've already learned a lot about the Scottish and the Irish. I can tell you, the Scottish and the Irish, yeah, they had their own pre-Christian religion. I mean, what do you think? And we even, not that we follow the religion, but we still use the name Celt. Of course, the Irish were considered more Celtic, while the Scottish were, I don't remember the old name for the who they were. The Irish had, no, was it the Irish or the Scots that were called Picts? But oh, I don't know. There's so many different old school names for so many different groups. The most common one for the people from the Nordic lands were either Northmen, or when they were out raiding, Vikings. But they were still, even then they were still called Northmen. But whether you want to call it mythology or Nordic beliefs, doesn't matter to me. Okay, because you can sit there and tell me that, oh yeah, he thinks it's all about reality when it's fantasy. There's no reality to it. Well, yes, there is. There's a whole lot of reality to it. Now, am I going to live like it's real? No. No. I mean, I wouldn't even know where to begin to live like it was real, especially in modern day times. I'm sorry. I mean, it's like, yeah, there are times where I wish we can live in the old days, because there are so many different people that just aggravate me to the point of like, that in factor, if I can, that in factor, the way this country's going nowadays, you might as well just hand it over to the barbarians, because I mean, it, in the last, keep on looking at that. Trying to figure out. Well, since the mid to late 80s, this country has been going downhill in a handbasket. I mean, we had some good years with some good presidents, but then there were other presidents that were just kind of like, what the heck are you doing? The Clinton era and the Bush era, it was just like, oh God, we're getting into stuff that's going to start a downhill mudslide, and it did. Now, Obama, well, yeah, in the beginning I wasn't exactly happy with him because of what he was doing with some of the different nations that we were not exactly friendly with. But as one of my cousins said, um, when the news report came that he was over in Korea trying to amend for our actions in Vietnam, my cousin went, "Oh, great, we got a ass kissing president." Now, that was his opinion. My opinion was like, okay, so he's trying to make friendly with people that could be potentially dangerous to our nation. Unfortunately, it looked like it backfired. Now, he did a great job for the American people when he did the Medicare, our medical system for those who were underprivileged or could not afford medical insurance of their own, because it benefited me and my wife. Other than that, well, he tried to do a lot of good for the country. At least I think he did. I mean, he tried to reunite the country, not looking at the differences of color, creed, culture, or anything like that. But unfortunately, a lot of the things that presidents do when it seems to be good tends to backfire in one way, shape, or form lately. Um, I can sit here and go on and on about politics. I don't. Politics does not matter to me no more. It's just ever since we got back from Germany, the country seemed to be, going backwards instead of forwards, for several different presidents. But each president tries to do what they think is best for the nation. Unfortunately, sometimes it's not always the best. That and a factor, I don't exactly know what goes on in the Oval Office when presidents change. When one president hands over the presidency to the oncoming president. But I wish they would find some way to align their goals for this country to make it better. Sometimes new presidents have to deal with the mistakes or the problems that a previous president caused. That's one of the reasons why I'm not exactly a fan of political agendas, because sometimes their agendas do not align with the needs of the people. But that's my point of view. But get back to mythology and whatnot. We can sit here and argue back and forth, about mythology versus Christianity and blah 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 blah. Point is, I'm investigating or studying, or however you want to put it, the information of a culture that is part of my DNA sequence, which is Scandinavian, Norwegian, however you want to call it, but it goes all the way back to the time of the Viking or the Norsemen. The thing is, empires rise and fall. I mean, Christianity, it rose. It's starting to fall. I see this. More and more people that I have connections with are either not happy with the way the church is doing things. So it's not about the Bible. It's about the church, the establishment of the church, that people have a problem with. I know plenty of people who, like me, were born and raised Christian, but now that they're an adult and they're old enough to make their own decisions and they're old enough to investigate into different things, some of them stay with Christianity but don't deal with the church. Like me, I don't deal with the church, but I stick with Christianity. I do read other books that have nothing to do with Christianity, but I'm finding more and more that a lot of old school religions, like Norse paganism, have certain qualities or characteristics that are similar to what the Bible talks about. Now, one of the biggest things that I stick with that both Norse paganism and the Bible talk about is the love of your neighbor. A lot of people think Norsemen would rather tear apart their neighbor and claim their land than protect them and help them and do whatever. No, because even those people know that if they do not help their neighbors or help those within their community, there's going to be issues or bad blood or whatnot. And then when it comes time to protecting everybody in their town, city, or whatnot, or have to go by what their leader tells them to do and go raid London or England or somewhere in the UK, the modern day UK, or even the siege of France, or exploring new territory. It takes a lot of people to do something like that, and if they do not care about their fellow Norsemen, then most likely the raid will fail or go awry somehow. The Bible is basically the same way. Love thy neighbor as you love yourself. Well, the way I see some people nowadays, like, wow, you must not love yourself because you're really not really, you're really treating your neighbor or your neighborhood like garbage. And I now that I'm driving and I'm traveling up and down the highway when I have to, and I see trash that's been, like, people throw the trash out of their cars instead of in a garbage receptacle. And I'm like, dude, this person must not like, these people must not like their fellow countrymen or the land that they live on, that they're stewards of. The reason why my van sometimes looks like trash on the inside is because I love this country so much that I would rather let the back end of my vehicle look like a trash can than throwing it out. Now that it's starting to get warmer, and hopefully maybe later on this week or next weekend when it's supposed to be nice and warm, I can go out there and clean up my car. Spring cleaning. But I see so many people as I'm driving, even in town while I'm driving, flicking cigarettes out of their window. That's how you cause a fire, you numbnuts. It's one thing when you're flicking it out of your car in town, but when you're driving up and down the highway where there's a lot of wild grass and whatnot, and you're flicking it out of your car like, oh, it don't matter. No, that's how you cause a fire. Most forest fires are caused by people who just don't care. They're not watching their campfire. They're not watching their kids around open flames or whatnot. Or they're leaving their campfire going while they go hiking, and poof, wind blows just right, spark flies out, hits dry grass, and whoosh, you got a forest fire. It mind-boggling how people can be. Yet, like I've noticed on here, people don't like us for one reason. Don't like Jerry, don't like me, whatever. Don't matter what it is. And instead of keeping their personal agenda or whatever at bay, they spew garbage onto our channel. And I'm like, that's fine. I can just remove it. But the thing is, how would you like it if you had your own channel, whether it's crafting channel, cooking channel, technical channel, or a channel where you're just reviewing video games or whatnot, and you get on there and start making, or you made your channel and whatnot, and I got on there and started, talking about stuff that has nothing to do with your channel. Or just like, oh, why are you making, why do I want to watch your, or let's say the game that you're reviewing is something I really like, and I get on there and start, chewing you out for making, comments about the game. I know. You put your life out there on multimedia where everybody can see it. You're opening yourself up with stuff. Well, you know what? To me, it just proves how much people don't like themselves because they're going out of their way to make lewd, rude, or unnecessary comments about somebody else or on their channel or whatever. It just makes me think that you really don't like yourself. Because a lot of people, when they make comments on other people's channels that are rude, crude, and just not necessary, is mostly because the fact their own lives are messed up in one way, shape, or form. I should know. I know my life is messed up. And I'm not talking about my life with Jerry. I'm talking about just me as a person, individual. I can easily go out there and on a bad day really get into it. I mean, you guys have seen me on bad days where I just let it go. I mean, it's just flying out there, hanging out there for the whole world to see, and I don't care. But my beliefs or my studies into belief systems, whether I believe it or not, doesn't mean I'm trying to make it into a reality. I mean, there are so many people out there that do not have channels like mine on any forum, whether it's here on YouTube or TikTok or Pinterest or not Pinterest, or multimedia of any form, doesn't matter what it is. That happens to be either somebody who really enjoys Norse mythology or is a practitioner of Norse paganism. And they get all kinds of rebukes and rebuttals and whatnot, or comments from various different groups who either don't like their way of doing Norse paganism or are not a Norse paganism and want to say that, oh, you're going to hell because you don't believe in Jesus, blah, 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 blah. You know what? We've all heard it. Every single person nowadays who is a practitioner or a believer in Norse paganism were at one point in time most likely Christian. In fact, there's at least 3 different groups, I'm not going to tell you where they are, that I happen to go to their webpage and whatnot, that deal specifically with Norse paganism and trying to help new people who want to follow Norse paganism understand Norse paganism for what it means and what it really is. Not, I've heard people say, oh, Norse paganism, that's all, it's an offshoot of Hitler's Nazism, blah, 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 blah. No, Hitler perverted a lot of different old religions like Norse paganism and Judaism and Confucianism. He used various different symbols or corrupted various different symbols for his own ilk. And everybody thinks because the symbols look almost the same but mean something totally different, they're white supremacist groups or whatever. And I'm like, no, because most of the people that are true Norse pagans are very kind, polite, loving, caring people. They've got families, they got friends, there's maybe a small group or small number of people who want to use Norse paganism for the wrong reason. And I'm like, yep, nope. I read enough already that I know you're wrong. And they want to argue the point. I'm like, okay, where do you get your information so I can double check it? My information comes from, I got the Havanal, I've got Viking myths, I've got Norse mythology, I can't even read that one book because the print is so fine, but it's basically How to Be, or the Viking Handbook, or the Modern Viking. All of them don't speak about hate. They all speak about caring, befriending, no matter what your creed, culture, whatnot. You want to be a part of it, come, we'll teach, we'll drink, we'll have fun, we'll do what we can do in modern day times. Still practice the holidays and the culture. But you can read I don't care how many times you read the Bible. Most Bibles, like this one. This one I like the most because of the fact that it has research tools and things like that. But it's called the Everyday Man's Bible. And Jerry gave it to me back in 2015 because she knew I was looking for a really good study Bible, and this one is a very good study Bible. It's also a New International Version. But as you go to read it, it gives you like timelines. What's the point of? Cross-referencing locations. And they give you little sections called, like that. And you can read that and then go to the various chapters, and the first coming, which is, it talks about the making of man and woman, and then it gives you information about Adam, naked and unashamed, which kind of seems weird. Passing the buck, basically blaming somebody else for your mistake. Work ethic information. It's a great book. I mean, I don't know how many times I've read it. But the thing is, anybody who's going to be smart enough to read anything, doesn't matter what. I've known people who will have a big desk, bigger than what I have here, and will have 5 or 6 different books open, cross-referencing or comparing to the Bible to a concordance, and then a book that has nothing to do with the Bible, but it has, like, the book I have over there called Not a Fan, which is written by Kyle Idleman. Kyle Idleman was not only one of my tutors at Ozark Christian College, but his father was the dean of the school, basically the president of the school, or what are you going to call him? He was the head honcho at Ozark Christian College at the time. And then they'll have like maybe a different book that has nothing to do with Christianity, but they're comparing it to Christianity or stuff like that. They're like 2 or 3 Bible-based books and maybe 1 or 2 non-Bible, non-Christian books. Just comparing them because they're they're doing a study on different religions compared to the Bible, things like that. I don't know. But the thing is, hold on, I don't want too much time. Okay. The thing is, what I read and what I'm studying and whatnot has nothing to do with reality. It has to do with just information. Most of the information that we have today on Norse mythology is either the earliest dating is 1960s when they first discovered this big old ship, Norse ship, which they now have in a museum in Oslo, I think it's. But it's a huge, it's bigger than your average longboat. And it has, from that boat alone, they discovered how they build the boats, how they keep them, from tipping over. The ingenuity and engineering of these longships before any of this knowledge, before anybody else ever discovered how to use a single boat to go up rivers and across oceans. Engineering feat that nobody, not even the Romans had. And the Romans were older than the Norsemen when it came to these boats. But, the information that we're starting to gain, or we've gained since 1960, about the Norse people is huge. Because they're discovering things that they thought they already knew from other cultures. And they're finding that the ingenuity and knowledge and whatnot about the Norse people that came hundreds of years after a lot of the boats that were on the Mediterranean. But you got to look at it. Okay, the Norse people lived half their countries, Sweden, Norway, Finland, And Iceland, most of their country was in the Arctic Circle. So these people had to deal with rough, harsh conditions that the people down in the Mediterranean did not. Okay, it's one of those. It's one of those things where it's like, of course, their technology or their engineering is going to be different than what was going on in the Mediterranean, because the Mediterranean, for the most part, did not have 6 months of dark or the North Seas were rougher all the time than down in the Med. So of course they're going to learn how to keep their boats from toppling over or flipping over. And you know how they did that? They're under the platform that they were standing on and whatnot were cargo holds, and for the most part, those cargo areas underneath the platform had rocks in them, heavy stones, to keep the boat from tilting or flipping. Only in extreme conditions would those boats flip. But anyhow, I don't want this getting longer. It's already over 40 minutes. So I'm going to bid you guys before I bid you guys a farewell. If you like this conversation, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments about this video, not a video in the past, please, go ahead and put them in there. If you're interested in Norse mythology or any of the information I have on the Nordic people, and I don't mean just one country, Norway, I'm talking about the whole shebang, the whole Scandinavian countryside, which was basically all of the Nordic nations: Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Finland, Iceland, Greenland, I think was considered a Nordic nation, but I don't know if they are now. I don't know if they're considered Nordic or not. But anyhow, if you're interested in that stuff, you can click on the little subscribe button, and a little bell will pop up, and click on that bell, and YouTube will let you know when I put in my next video. So until next time, I bid you guys a farewell, and I will see you around. Bye.